What's up, guys? Brady Figueroa here, coming at you with a review for the new Abigail Williams record, A Void Within Existence, released last Friday, July 18th. This album was one of my most anticipated extreme metal albums of the year, largely due to the fact that their last record in 2019, Walk Beyond the Dark, is, without exaggeration, a top 3 black metal album of all time for me. Like, I'm serious, if you want to get a good gauge for my tastes when it comes to black metal, listen to that album and specifically the track Sun and Moon, which is, for my taste, the perfect black metal song, like to the T. And listening to this record for the first time, I was very happy to see that not only has Abigail Williams picked up where they left off from that record, but they've actually done some more musical exploration. And what probably surprised me the most about this record overall was just the insane subgenre blending. That, like, with the exception of Void Within, kind of the title track, and I guess Non-Existence, every other song on this album to me feels like somewhat of a genre mixing between black metal and other metal subgenres. Right off the bat, the intro track Life Disconnected, which is one of my favorite tracks on here, brought to mind more of like a black and death metal feel to it, because the typical black metal is a bit more kind of meandering and kind of drawn out, as opposed to heavy and hard-hitting like this song is. But this song still has that blackened edge to it. Just everything about this song. I mean the intro melodies, for one, just that dissonant ambiance of the intro, and then how it just crashes into this steamrolling triplet march the entire time. You have powerful sounding gang vocals, and just overall, this is just a very percussive and just crushing song, which is unconventional for black metal, but I'm really digging it. As for a few highlights for the song, at the 3:05 mark, you get some really techie drum parts that I thought were really cool. That will be a compliment of mine later when I get to the kind of overarching compliments for this album, but the drum performance on this song and this album is just absolutely unreal. And then at the 3:44 mark, give or take, you get, dare I say, a breakdown. It just it has these towering chords that come crashing down into these vicious double bass grooves. And then the icing on the cake is just a genuinely emotional and just phenomenal guitar solo. On a similar note, the track Still Nights later in the album, I would say, compares a lot to Life Disconnected, but with this track, I'm getting more of a thrash metal influence, so I guess you can call it black and thrash metal. This is one of the tracks that's a bit more straightforward and to the point. It's got a really thrashy intro, and overall this song is just really aggressive and fast-paced in its rhythm section, which is what brings to mind thrash metal for me. Just after the halfway mark, you get these really cool double bass bursts, and then there's this fucking sequence of towering guitar solos that sequences in to this cascading blast beat section right at the 2:45 mark. These songs are definitely the two heaviest tracks on the record, and they're great instances of this album, I should say, is a great instance of kind of the difference between being heavy and being extreme, because this entire album is extreme. This is a full-on extreme metal album. But these two songs are the heavy songs, the hard-hitting songs. And in addition to that, the band also experiments on this album in more melodic directions, most notably the amazing closing track on here, No Less Than Death, which brings almost like a post-black metal type vibe with it. I get a lot of Agalloch influence in this song, and I thought it was an interesting choice to kind of save all of the clean vocals for this last song on here. It gives this song, for one, a lot more personality and makes it stand out a lot more, and it was a nice surprise to hear it at the end of the album, as opposed to on the last record where the clean vocals were kind of just sprinkled in here and there among multiple different tracks. The melodies in this song are just fucking amazing. They're so hard to describe because they're oddly soothing. They're soothing melodies, especially on the vocal front, but they have just this dark underbelly beneath them. It was so funny. I took note of this because when I was listening to this song for the first time, I did start to maybe drift away from it a little bit, but it was only because the music itself was so entrancing. It kind of got me more in my thoughts. But right at the 5:53 mark, the song itself snapped me back into place, which never fucking happens. If I space out during a song, that's usually the end of it. but not in this case. This just shows how well crafted these songs are, that the song itself can actually get your attention back if you drift away from it. On the vocal front in particular, if I can go back to that for a second, the way that the words "no less than death" are delivered, how it kind of has that droning quality to it, I thought was brilliant. I think the vocals on this song are produced absolutely brilliantly. They have this perfect balance between sounding like really towering and menacing, but also really easy on the ears and almost light. They just sound so like meticulously produced and layered to where they just sit perfectly in the mix and at times almost act as like an extra instrument. The lead guitar in this song is fucking phenomenal. The intro and that final solo that really crescendos as it closes are two of my favorite lead sections on the entire record. And then the track that precedes this final track, Embrace the Chasm, has these like interesting kind of black and roll sections that really caught me off guard. The first one appearing at the 157 mark that almost has like this fun bounce to it, and to me brought somewhat of like an uncanny valley type vibe to it. And there's another similar but darker section that appears at the 332 mark, which again, it's refreshing to hear these new ideas presented so late in the record, being the second to last song. And I especially love how on this track the drums are a bit more stripped back overall. They kind of give the album a chance to breathe, and they give the listener kind of a break from the really techy and intense drum performance of the rest of the record. And then also like the whimsical pianos that chime in the intro and just the wailing guitar harmonies that appear later in the song are nice touches as well. The lead single, Non-Existence, was one that I fell in love with right away because of its mood swings. It's like this roller coaster ride, or this meter that keeps spiking with its heaviness and melody. The entire song is just non-stop up and down dynamics. Like the entire time between those really almost delicate but very, very atmospheric clean guitar sections and those heavier parts. I just love the way this song continuously builds all the way up to these heavier parts and then just drops out effortlessly into, again, those really desolate, clean guitar sections. And this song is another track where the lead guitar really shines the entire time. It kind of pops in and out, and you notice it more in certain parts as opposed to other parts, but the melodies perfectly fit this song. This song is beautiful, yet it's dark at the same time, which is the perfect black metal mood for me, I guess. Talk to Your Sleep is a really interesting song for me because on my first listen, I actually didn't like it. That's mostly because I thought the song was a little bit sluggish, and the chord progressions and the melodies themselves, they didn't feel like they presented like a clear emotion to me. They felt a little bit like emotionally stuck in the middle. They didn't sound dark or evil, and they didn't sound mournful or anything like that either. They didn't have an identity to them, if that makes sense. But the thing is, and this is why I'm so happy that I gave this album a bit more time than usual to review, is that this song is the song that has been stuck in my fucking head since the first time I listened to it. That main groove in the intro that reappears throughout the song at several moments, it's got this real like bottom-heavy, bassy undertone to it that I think is great, and it's so fucking catchy, which ultimately is what turned this song completely around for me. I still don't think it's one of my favorites on the record, but I very much appreciate its place on this album now, and I enjoy listening to it when I didn't the first time. The only track on this album that I would describe as just straightforward, traditional sounding black metal is track 2, Void Within, which I guess is sort of the title track, if you will. But don't be fooled. Void Within is my absolute favorite song on this album. Maybe my favorite black metal song of the year so far. Just the opening array and sequence of just these dreary, drudgy chord progressions that sound just absolutely just melancholic is fucking awesome. You get this proggy bridge section that leads into like this really doomy, sludgy part at like the 304 mark that also has some amazing chord progressions. The song actually pulls off choir vocals, which is something that is a little bit rare for me because a lot of times they just feel unnecessarily caked on, but in this song I think it gives it a lot more character. And I especially love how on this song, and several songs on this album actually do this, but I think this song executes it best, how the song ends, and it sounds like it's almost fading into like the wind. Just like I said about Sun and Moon off the last record, this song, Void Within, is 10 out of 10 perfect black metal for me. This song is absolutely haunting. And yeah, that's every song on the record that I just talked about. Aside from that, just overarching things I must say about this record, it is absolutely amazingly produced. It manages to sound clean and distinguishable and pleasant sounding, but still having somewhat of like that black metal-esque low fineness to it, to where it doesn't sound polished or overproduced whatsoever. Going off the production, I think any and all studio effects on this record were used really well. They never felt like they were caked on, like I just was talking about. They never felt like they were unnecessarily added in or like they were covering up for boring music. None of that. They actually all contributed to the overall mood of the song, and they actually felt like they added something, which is the most important thing when it comes to studio effects like that, especially things like choir vocals, strings, etc. All of the performances are great. I especially will single out the drum performance and the lead guitar performance. The drum performance and just the overall drum parts on this song are fucking ridiculous. Life Disconnected and Void Within in particular, it's unreal. And the lead guitar really shines on this album, especially on the more melodic tracks like Non-Existence and No Less Than Death. The album is beautifully arranged. Every single song on this record has its own identity to it, and they all together feel like they're adding different and new elements. I am so fucking happy that I was able to wait a little bit longer for this review. Normally I like to have a review up within 2, 3, maybe 4 days of a release. This record I gave it a week and a half, and I'm so happy I did. Because it allowed the one song that I wasn't really feeling on this record to grow on me significantly and kind of allow me to realize its place on this record. So, all of that being said, I am so happy to give my first ever in the history of this channel 30 out of 30. And I do mean that. Listening to this album several times, but even just multiple times today, I genuinely cannot think of any criticisms for this record. Shout out to Abigail Williams. They have not just met, but have exceeded any and all expectations for this record. And that about does it for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching as always. If you've heard this album, if you're a fan of this band, if you're a fan of black metal, please comment below your thoughts on this record. I should also say I highly recommend this album to not just black metal fans, but fans of any types of metal whatsoever. If you're looking for an album to kind of get you into black metal, if you're curious about it, this is a great record to start with. Also remember to hit subscribe for more rock and metal-related content and album reviews. I got my Instagram, Spotify, Threads links in the description of the video, as well as a Spotify link to my original music if you'd like to check that out. And until next time, thank you guys again so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace.